Hello, and welcome to Wine with Wita, the podcast that is dedicated to engaging with health professionals and caregivers in meaningful discussions. I'm your host, Rita Shamoon, or as my clients call me, Wita. I'm a pediatric speech pathologist, and I am so excited to have you here. Each week, we deep dive into connecting you with caregivers and healthcare professionals, sharing their insights, stories, and key takeaways to help you with your child's diagnosis and your journey. Whether you are a parent, healthcare professional, a lifetime learner, or simply a wine enthusiast, you're in the right place. So let's sit back and relax and enjoy today's episode. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Wine with Wita. Today, I have a gorgeous person called Megan Jessop. She is the director of Dance Habit. Welcome to Wine with Wita, Megan.
Thank you, Rita. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Megan, we met through your brother, who is my business coach. And I've been coming up, will be 1 year of my podcast. And your brother, about 15 months ago, asked me, "What are your thoughts on a podcast, Rita?" And I said, "Oh, look, Cord, I don't need another thing to do. As a mother, I just can I just stick to my Instagram live because it was neat, it was wrapped in a pretty bubble." And he just motivated me and saw the belief within myself, which then led me to creating the wonderful platform of Wine with Wita is today. And when we talk about being a motivation for people and motivating young kids, I want that to be our topic for today, how we motivate children. And this is where your wonderful business of Dance Habit, where we can support children that are special needs and neurotypical with their ability to dance, and the challenges that you face with the business and teaching children as well as your own personal story. So Megan, I have seen here your gorgeous biography. Well done on a stellar career. I'm going to point some important factors out. You're New Zealand born and you were trained in all styles of dance at Mount Eden Ballet Academy from 3 years of age. Well
Yeah, very
done.
young.
Well done. You went to go work in dance on stage, TV, and film. And then you found your calling when you started an opportunity at the Jackie
Cezanne, yeah.
Cezanne at in Auckland, at the dance studio in Auckland. Down the track, then you established Dance Habit in Melbourne in 2011, which was a childhood dream. So, Megan, tell the audience or the listeners about who you are and about your gorgeous childhood dream of opening a dance studio.
Yeah, I mean, you've pretty much wrapped it up. But yeah, I was born in New Zealand, danced from a very, very young age, and was very lucky to have a beautiful school that I felt a deep sense of belonging and connection to. And I went on to teaching and I just fell in love. And I think ultimately I always wanted to do that. I used to write, excellence on my teddy bear's hands and things. So I think teaching was just something that was very intrinsic in like my motivation to do good in the
Mm,
world. So Jackie Cezanne gave me an opportunity to teach at the age of 16, which was is quite young, and I just
mm,
loved it. I just fell in love with it. So I did that alongside completing a degree in dance at Auckland Uni, and then we moved. My now husband and I, Jason, moved to Melbourne in 2006. And initially, it was quite hard to get set up here. So we ended up, well, I ended up in a job that was not at all related to dance. So I stepped into state and federal government work just in administration
mhm.
um, for about 5 years, and that gave me a whole skill set that I now use within my business. So it wasn't sort of, I was sad to move away from dance for a little bit, but it definitely gave me some tools as well. In 2011, I launched Dance Habit, and initially that was in a little church hall, which, fun fact, was on a street that has the same name as my original ballet teacher. So I took that as a sign from the universe.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Um,
amazing.
yeah. It was very much like oh yes, no, this is an alignment. Like I should be doing this.
Yeah.
So yes, I ran classes at that church hall for about 2 years while also working full time. I really went all in and I ended up in
Yeah.
hospital with exhaustion and just like,
Mm.
there was no room for failure at that point. So I probably wouldn't do that again. But it did set me off on a really successful sort of trajectory. So we opened the first commercial space that we had in 2013. And I was really lucky to have some close friends of mine, Lisa and Mel, teach for me, and they're still, very connected to the studio today, which is really nice. And then went through all of the life things, like had two children, got married, did all of the things while also building the space. And
Mhm.
then in 2018, late 2018, my youngest was born, and we were also fitting out a brand new studio, which was like, I think, 3 or 4 times the size of our first one. And
Wow.
yeah, it was a big project, and I was, in hospital having just had a baby and talking to the builder about permits on um on the
If that
phone.
doesn't
So,
say super mum, I don't know what does.
oh, yeah, look, there's some things I'd probably do differently now that I'm older and have a bit more knowledge, but the drive was there still, and so we opened that space and we grew substantially in 2019, which was lucky because the year after that we went into lockdown. So we did,
Mm.
yeah, 2 years of the better part of 2 years of lockdown here in Melbourne was really hard, very isolating, and kind
Yeah.
of like, it impacted the very thing we did, which was to connect people and bring community together. So we had to pivot and do all of that online. And that wasn't super fun, if I'm honest. But we did it, and we really contributed to people's lives during that time, and they stayed connected with us. So I do feel really proud,
Mhm.
even though that was a hard time for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we've been back since, yeah, 2022, just kind of refining our values, and yeah, business is thriving. It's doing really well. We've got a beautiful team of people who are just incredible, and yeah, I feel still very purpose led. So that's
Yeah.
it.
Megan, you've said two words throughout our initial chat. You keep saying community and connection.
Mm,
And this is the gorgeous about working with families and setting up a business, because it's creating that connection that's
mm,
connected to your values and your purpose, which then supports the community. And in your environment, your community is specifically the dance community, but
mm,
not only specifically with older people, but also with young kids who are our future. Let's talk
mm.
about the structure of your business and what kind of children do you teach and what kind of styles you teach. But mind you, this is a very foreign area to me. So excuse my unfamiliar terminology, because I have no idea. I'm not a
Okay.
dance mum. My daughters didn't do dancing, they did acro. So
Mm,
things like ballet, what's that thing
ballet.
called? But that one,
It's not too
I
late,
have no
Rita. You
idea.
still have you still have a chance to join us.
So you know what? How about we have a little bit of a dance lesson later on in the episode and give me a few keywords?
Sure, I can do that.
So yeah, so tell me about your business and the kind of clients that you teach and what kind of styles you teach to.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, the studio, I think, it was organic because it was just,
Mhm,
as I said earlier, it was something that I always wanted to do, but the approach was probably a little more organic and developed over time. In
mhm,
those initial stages, I didn't really know how I wanted to teach. I just knew that I wanted to teach, and that was really it. It was just get in the room and do
mm,
the thing. I just knew that dance could be a vehicle for really like good things, and as
mhm.
as I said, community and connection. And I really wanted to pass on those experiences that I had had as a young person, in a, what was arguably a bit of a challenging childhood. So dance was really my safe space. So I wanted to
Yeah.
replicate that. Um, yeah. So initially, the goals were really outcome focused, which is not, like, that's probably how most studios operate, is that we're looking at developing a certain level of skills, and we're maybe setting kids off on, some kind of career pathway. I think more and more people are starting to see the value of that not being, the measurable outcome. But yeah, so we dabbled with a few things that really started to conflict my internal values around dance, and that was, going to competitions and just sort of not being able to
Mm.
control the environment, and it all feeling a little bit, um, yuck, if I'm honest. And it was a
Or
bit like,
staged?
yeah, that's a good word for
Yeah,
it.
I know. Yeah, excuse the pun, but yeah, like it felt
Yeah,
staged because it wasn't aligned to what you felt you wanted to teach as well.
Yeah, and I just wasn't able to control those environments either. So
Yeah.
I was talking about
Mm,
these values that we had, but then we were putting these kids in these environments where they were being compromised. So I started
mm,
to reflect on that and then made a decision to move away from that completely. And we lost a few families at that time because they were really keen on the competitions. And that was hard, I think, because they
yeah, I
were
bet.
families that we were quite connected to. But ultimately, it was the right decision. And,
Mm,
I've been able to see that exploring dance in a different way where it adds value to your life but doesn't consume your life is
yeah.
actually really important. So we've refined our values and we've got a really incredible team of, I think, 10 teachers at the moment, and they work with children from 18 months all the way through. We've got a golden groovers class, which is our 60
Wow,
plus.
really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, that's
yeah, they're
awesome.
awesome, and they do the concert and everything. It's heaps of
That's
fun.
amazing. How fulfilling would that be? Like, I feel how old are these groovers, by the way?
Like, well, they're not allowed to do the class unless they're 60, so they have to be
Oh,
above that. Yeah, I think
oh,
it'll they vary in age, but yeah, I think even in my first couple of years, I had a woman who joined us in our ballet classes who was at the time, I think, 65. So it was like always very diverse in age.
yeah. Can I just say that is so beautiful to hear that you offer that because with my parents growing older, it's like they you lose your sense of identity once you are no
Mm,
longer in the trenches of parenting, you're
mm,
no longer working, and so they just get lost in their aging process. But have a service like yourself where they can still tap into something that brings them joy. Without a
yeah.
doubt, Megan, that would make give you so much self a validation and like just
Mm.
beauty to what you represent in your business too.
Yeah, I'm still working on getting my mum into that class, so hopefully maybe I'll put it out here on the podcast and she might do it.
What's her name? We'll have a call out.
Colleen.
Colleen?
Yeah.
How about we have like a joint dance, the reader who doesn't understand any jargon, and then you can teach myself and your mum together.
Yeah, great. Let's sign her up.
Let's manifest that.
Yeah. 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 So
Us,
and then the
yeah.
classes, sorry, I was just gonna say the
No,
classes
no, just
are
I'm just continuing. Yeah.
yeah, just that was the last thing, is just their stage-based classes. So predominantly things like ballet, jazz, tap, hip hop, contemporary. We do a little bit of acro actually, and conditioning classes as well. So a bit of everything. And some musical theatre. I don't think I mentioned that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you mentioned the acro and the musical theatre. Awesome. That is wonderful. What a range. Now, you
Mm,
mentioned before you weren't aligned with the competitive aspect and you did lose a lot of clients. And as a business owner, that's a hard decision to make because not necessarily they're the bread and butter of your business, but it would have been an important factor to how your structure of your business was, as well as the financial element. But what I've realized as a business owner, and I'm sure you align with this, with risks comes with great success. And I think that was a risk that you aligned to your values, which then opened up
mm.
a bigger possibility and a larger range of clients as well.
Yeah, and I think just to add there, it's not to say that there's not a place for competitive dance. It
Yeah.
just wasn't something that I wanted to do.
Of course, of course. And it goes back to what you want as a business owner too. Yeah. Let's now talk about neurodivergent children. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this, I just finished a swim podcast, a swimming focused podcast to celebrate neurodiversity. And being a mum who has children that attend swimming lessons, I felt teachers just didn't know how to teach children with special needs the very important skill of swimming. Do
Mm.
you find, excuse me, my voice is going, do you find tailoring classes for special needs children challenging because of their learning style, or have you found a way that can support their
Mm.
needs as well?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I guess dance is a brilliant choice for
Mm,
extracurricular activities for children, whether they have additional needs or not. Health and wellbeing benefits are obvious,
mm,
but importantly, as I've already said a number of times, connection, community, and belonging is really
yeah.
important, and
Mm,
those relationships as well, because often dance teachers they could be part of that child's life for decades. It's not like school
mm,
teaching where typically it's a different person each year. Um, so yeah, I think the benefits of those classes for children who have additional needs are so great. Like there's just so many. To touch on a couple, probably emotional regulation is a big one. So
Yeah.
movement really helps us to process emotion in our body, whether we're aware of that or not. So that allows us to sort of practice processing any of those big feelings that are coming up. Impulse control is another really big one. So practicing waiting for our turn, listening when the teacher is talking, following instructions, and then also, choosing the right moments to contribute their own thoughts.
Mm,
Obviously, age dependent. Cognitive function, so holding attention and focus. And when we learn choreography, we memorize sequences. So being able to sequence and put things in order and remember how the order of them.
mm.
Auditory processing, so listening and responding to music and being able to count music and rhythm. There's visual perceptions, collaborating with the teacher, and also peers if it's a group setting. We've got gross motor skills, so things like
Wow, it's
balance.
everything.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is balance, stability, coordination, and then you've also got some fine motor skills. So if we use props like ribbons and
Mm,
scarves and finger coordination, that sort of thing. Spatial awareness, proprioception, so that's an understanding of where our bodies are in space and in any given moment. Obviously, dance is very creative, so developing any
mm,
creative work through improvisation. So it's so many things. It's such a holistic approach, and I think at the surface, people are like, "Oh, it's just dance. It's just fluffy and it's
no.
bubbles." And it's just so not that. It's hidden work. So we sometimes work with
Mm,
OTs, or there are particular outcomes that children are trying to reach. One of the really big ones, which is something we work on a lot, is our crossing the midline. So
yeah.
using the left and the right brain in dance classes and doing steps that promote that kind of brain activity actually then help with tying shoelaces and riding bikes and solving problems, and even contributes to academic success of reading, writing, math, all of that as well. So it's really just
Yeah.
not dance.
I love how you say that it's not just dancing because in my industry, my focus is play-based therapy, and it's just more than playing. Like the impact of interaction supports all those other elements that you mentioned too. How do
Mm.
you how do you encourage parents to understand that it's more than just dancing, and it supports a child to also generalize their skills that they learn in the therapy room or even in the classroom to help them out in everyday function too.
Yeah, look, in truth, I probably don't need to kind of convince people, because if they've
Mhm.
come to us, they've already seen the value that dance
Sure.
adds, and
Yeah.
they've been, seeking it. I think in the future, probably doing some outreach work might be on the cards once I have
Mhm.
some
Yeah.
resources to help with that. But yeah, I typically don't work with people who I need to convince because they're sort of
Sure.
already there.
Yeah.
Mm.
I understand that. I understand that. So when we talk about special needs kids, what kind of special needs do you see? Autistic children, children with
Mm.
ADHD, Down syndromes? Like what kind of
Mm.
classes do you offer for special needs children?
Yeah, all of the things that you've mentioned, intellectual
Mhm.
disabilities, sometimes physical disabilities, sensory processing, all kinds of things. Um, yeah, what was your question? Sorry, my
Like
my
what kind
brain
of
just
children?
left the
The, re-
room.
the reason the reason why I'm asking this question is because in therapy, in speech therapy, we have group social skills, we have language
Hmm.
groups, and the idea of having groups for special needs kids can be quite challenging in the sense we can't have a large class. We have to keep it quite small. And
Mm,
sometimes we
mm,
have to
mm,
have children with a similar diagnosis or similar
mm.
intellectual capacity or language
Sure.
capacity. So I can understand the challenges that come with creating that group for a child. I'm actually more interested, how do you do it from a dance perspective to meet the goal of the dance skill, but also
Mm.
respecting the need of the child and the impact of, say, larger classrooms for these children or loud noises? That would be hard, I would assume, because I find that challenging.
Yeah, it is hard. And I think it's just, it's something that I definitely don't feel like I've mastered. But
Mm,
my main takeaway would be that every single child is different. So being
mhm,
able to be flexible and adapt our approach, um, and, recognize that sometimes the measures might change as well,
yeah,
that nothing's static is really important. I think we use a program called Rhythm Work. So this actually was a little bit organic as well. So we've always wanted to feel, or I've always felt driven to provide an inclusive space. But I think initially I didn't really have the skills and training to develop um, that, walking the walk type thing. So it was like it was all
Mm,
well and good to say, "Oh, welcome" on our door, which was the case actually at our first commercial space. But I didn't necessarily, I didn't upskill or have the knowledge to be able to really truly make our space inclusive for people of
yeah.
all backgrounds. So I attended a conference in Palm Springs actually in
Oh,
2017.
wow.
Yeah, and there was this woman there, Trisha Gomez, and she's just incredible. And she was launching her new inclusive dance program called Rhythmworks. And so once I sort of started listening to her, I mean, she was very engaging, and like I just was straight immediately on board. I just invested in the program straight away. Um,
Mm,
and fun fact, one of my team at the time, Tammy, who is no longer teaching for me, she runs her own school, but we're still very good friends. And she was the first person to qualify in Rhythmworks in Australia. And so then I
ah,
followed and did the training, and a couple of my other team members have also done that. So it was fantastic. So it was sort of evidence-based tools to better understand and work with challenging behaviour, sensory impacts, executive function deficits, and
mm,
neurodiversity. And I think alongside the tangible skills, it also just gave us the confidence to really get in there and give it a go, and to
mm,
have some, it's like evidence-based training behind us to know why something maybe didn't work, and to be able
yeah.
to refine our approach. Yeah.
I love that for you. I love that you took the initiative to learn with a program that's got evidence-based practice behind it, but also have a crack at it, like try it with these
Mm.
kids and see if it worked, and I'm assuming it was quite successful with a lot of the children.
Yeah, yeah, no, it has been really successful. As I said, success is different for every person, every
Yeah.
individual. But if we look at it as a bigger picture of the program and how we have incorporated it into our studio, I
Mm,
would say it's been really successful, and largely so in more recent years, thanks to Paige, who's our one of our team who leads this program, and she's a brilliant teacher, and she's
mm,
very motivated to work in this space, and she's just been a fierce advocate for the students in her care. So we'll be doing planning meetings and things, and as the director of the studio, and quite a large studio, there's a lot for me to be across, and often
yeah.
I need somebody to take charge of different areas to make sure that they are equally prioritized. So
Mm,
she's been really great at making sure that any of our planning meetings and things, that she's standing up for them and saying, like, let's make sure we include them. How do we make sure that the space is inclusive at events where they're coming to a different environment? How do we what do we do about costuming? Because that's sometimes different if you're
mm.
talking about
Hard.
sensory processing. Yeah, it can
Yeah,
be. And,
yeah,
not making any assumptions around what will work and what won't work, but just being open to,
yeah,
trying. And I was going to say another flow on success too would be actually our mainstream classes, for want of a better word. So
yeah.
when we do at the end of each term, we try to bring together classes that are running at the same time. So we have 4 studios and typically 3 classes running at the same time. And so by
Mhm.
bringing those classes together, it helps to enhance that sense of community, connection,
Belonging.
belonging.
Yeah, yeah, love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so when we bring, we have a group class called All Together, which is our current class, inclusive dance class. Where a lot of people work in private lesson spaces, but that's the class that we have currently offered. And so they come and join with the mainstream. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but
Yes. Oh,
the
yeah, I
classes.
understand what you mean. Yeah, mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah, and that actually has a flow-on effect for the dancers in those classes, because it really fosters, the community aspect, and it like develops
Mm,
their social skills with people who maybe see the world differently, and it helps them develop empathy and understanding, and it just really promotes that inclusion value for
yeah,
us. So yeah, the positive, I guess success stories are not just isolated to in the studio, but also not just
yeah,
isolated to the students that are in those classes either.
yeah. How does that make you feel when you see that class come
Oh,
together?
it's just beautiful. Like, it's probably
Yeah,
one of my favorite things.
I
We just
bet.
recently did like a little promo video that went on the website. Was a bit outdated, so we got some recent footage, and just the joy. You just watch it and you can't help but smile. It's
Yeah.
really special. Yeah.
You can only imagine what those families will feel, that my child that has been not included in other areas of their life because of their challenges is
Mm.
now integrating with other children and connecting and building that sense of belonging too. You can just imagine how much pride they have, and just the love that they would feel in that moment, and gratitude for you for creating a program like that to support their child.
Yeah, I mean, all parents should have that experience. You know,
Mm,
as a parent, I can really relate to the fear of your child not being included or accepted
yeah.
or being treated differently. And that really is an emotional thing for a parent. So
Mm,
it's obviously quite heightened when children have additional needs or they do
yeah.
need to, they do have different requirements within the space.
Mm,
So navigating that can be hard. And I think a lot of the families that come to us, not all of them, but some of them have sadly had not so good experiences previously, not
mm,
necessarily with dance, but just care providers where they haven't
mm.
felt seen and heard. And they have to
Valued.
advocate so fiercely for their children that sometimes it puts them on the defensive right from get go when what we're trying to do is collaborate with them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I can so resonate with that. Even with just speech pathology, a lot of parents are like, "Well, my child didn't connect with the therapist and we're not achieving the goals that we want." But it's about, okay, let's put down those walls. Let's really dig
Mm,
deep into what's really going on here. Let's connect so we can have a sense of belonging together to then create that safe space for your child to then achieve the goals. I
mm.
love, though, Megan, a great success story. Do you have any stories of students that have completed your program or were at your dance school that have become dance teachers or work for yourself or was a stage performer overseas? I just feel like if we could celebrate success stories of for these kids, especially when things were not a possibility and now it's a big possibility with these kids, I just love to share these so other families can feel empowered by it.
Yeah, that's a great question and not one I was ready for. Um, But I
Sorry.
think no, it's okay. I think it's probably less about the outcome, the performance-based outcome. So,
Mhm.
the dancer is less important to me than the human. So,
Yeah.
it's looking at the measurables of a human and going, okay, well, what have they achieved? And we've got dancers who've been with us since they were really, really young. We've got a child with Down syndrome who's working in our assistant teacher program. So we have a program called Dance Step, which gives young or younger children, so sort of like upper primary, lower high school age, to work through a leadership program and to learn how to be an assistant teacher, to learn some really great life skills. And it's
Mhm.
like not putting, so I guess like her being able to participate in that program just like everyone else, that's the goal, isn't it? It's just there's no ceiling
Mm.
on top of you. There's no assumptions around what you're going to be capable of. So and meeting them where they're at and just letting them be in the driving seat a little bit and
Mm,
just
mm.
supporting them to achieve their goals or to just keep progressing.
Yeah.
That's the success story for me. So it's maybe not as exciting as being on stage
No,
under
it
lights, but
is. It is just even
yeah.
your smile says enough.
Yeah, no, it's really special, and I think
Yeah.
it's been more rewarding than I ever probably thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on creating something that you are able to follow your own joy and what you learned as a student yourself, but then to create a space for all children uh, and following what you align to, what your values are, to then creating a wonderful space for all kids, which is a
Mm.
wonderful story. So thank you for sharing on this podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Megan, earlier in the piece, you spoke about making decisions that you weren't so sure about, and if you were make the decision now, you would do it completely differently. Could you give any advice for anyone starting a business like yourself to what they can avoid? I would say, and the challenges that
Oh,
they would most likely see.
yeah. Okay. So reverse advice.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Look, I would say it's just about values alignment. I think
yeah,
the success of a business is really dependent on values and the actions that you take to
hmm
stay aligned with those values. And, when they are questioned by people, it can be really difficult. So it's like staying true to the course and remembering your why all the time. And,
yeah,
um, yeah, just leading with kindness and acknowledging that, things change and we're humans and we're complex and there's emotions. And,
yeah.
ultimately, though, if you have a value that is important to you and it comes from a place of authenticity,
hmm
then it's really probably quite unlikely that you would be unsuccessful in
Yeah.
achieving those goals. Mm,
I love that. It's so true. Values, kindness, and working really hard for it too.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe just don't pull 17-hour days every day
No, and
for
don't
2 years.
call the construction worker after giving birth. Like, it just
Yeah, take some leave. There's my
take
advice, take
some
some leave.
exactly right, exactly right. Now, you mentioned to me before we started that you have recently been diagnosed with ADHD.
Mm,
I feel there's a growing trend, well, not necessarily a trend, a growing rate of women in particular
mm,
being quite familiar with the characteristics of ADHD. And it actually makes me think, is it do most people have ADHD, or most women, successful women, have ADHD because of
mm.
their go getting personality, or is it ADHD and then we've just masked it the whole time because we just don't know how to manage it properly? So I would love to know about your personal story.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have the answer to your question because I think I'm still working that out. But
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I got a diagnosis, I'm going to say like 2 years ago now. So it's
Hmm.
pretty fresh.
Mm.
Initially, it came with a lot of grief, and it was a lot of
Yeah.
grief for young me who really struggled with
Mm.
things like school and dance was probably like in hindsight a real regulator for me because
Yeah.
I was doing it all the time. I mean, I was in there every single day, and it probably helped me to, regulate my nervous system and yeah, and yeah, I just struggled with other things. So executive functioning
Mm.
around study and school and anything I wasn't interested in, basically I wouldn't do. So
Mm.
it came with a lot of grief because I think my life could have been quite different if I
Yeah.
had had, or the people around me had had the knowledge and the skills to support me in the ways that I needed. But it also,
Mm.
was the 80s and 90s, so we didn't know as much
Different.
as we do now.
Mm.
Yeah. So initially some grief, but I think ultimately, and everyone's experience is different, I think it's given me a deeper understanding of myself and opened up a world of resources to help me function better and have a more enjoyable life. And I am able to be very vulnerable and identify when I'm struggling with things. So I have a really great team
Mm.
around me. There is one person at work in particular who I'll shout out to is our creative lead and inclusion ambassador Mon. Like, she's really good at keeping me on task, and we'll be in a meeting and my brain will go off on a bit of a tangent, and she'll bring me back to earth. So yeah, it's definitely something that I'm continually navigating, and my experience of it would be very different to the next person. So
Yeah.
I can't speak for all people who have ADHD, but it's
Mm.
definitely it put a lot of the pieces of the puzzle together for me when I was
Yeah.
like, ah, that's why
Yeah.
I can run a successful business, but I can't cook a meal to save my life.
Yeah.
Mm,
That makes sense because it's like now I can like that. I guess that the confusion that you would have felt before the diagnosis, going, why can I do this, but I can't maintain a conversation or I can't cook a meal, is what you said.
mm,
But now it's like, oh, it's not necessarily me. It's because of my diagnosis, which is limiting my capacity. But
mm.
now, it's not like you're not going to cook a meal. It's more like I know why I cannot cook it to the expectations that I have because of my challenges that I've experienced.
Yeah, and it's just like constantly rechecking on that and being,
Mm.
again, that kindness extends to yourself as well,
Mm.
doesn't it? It's like
It
I can
does.
beat myself up over it, or I can just breathe and accept
Yeah.
that this is something I find difficult. And funnily enough, it's what we do in the studio constantly. We talk about growth as one of our core values, and we talk constantly about growth mindset and doing hard things. And I
Mm.
find myself teaching and saying, well, if we could do things the first time we tried, then life would be really boring. And how good it's going to feel when you work hard and you achieve this goal. And
Yeah.
they say I can't. We have actually I can written in
Mm.
big bold letters at the top of our studio wall. So every time they say I can't, I just point at it and make them say it out loud.
I can.
And it's
Yeah.
just kind of ironic that I'm doing that as an educator, but I don't often remember to apply the same rules to myself. So it's a constant process.
Yeah, it's so true because even when I'm motivating my own clients to achieve their goal, it's like, hold on, Arita, why don't you do that for yourself when you're motivating your
Mm,
kids? Take your own words of advice and be kind to yourself. Take
mm,
it day by day, and you will achieve great success. And I actually heard a really great phrase that I want to say the other day. The slow lane is always the fastest lane, right?
mm.
Like
Oh, I like
when
that.
we,
Or go
yeah, I
backwards
like.
to go forwards.
Yeah, or go backwards to go forwards. I love that because I feel like we're constantly doing so much, so much, so much
Mm,
just to get to the end goal that we forget to enjoy the process, that we forget to
mm.
take it all in and enjoy. So sometimes with our young kids and when we're teaching them, taking it every day, following every instruction, re-clarifying if we don't understand, the slow lane will get you there much faster because you'll embrace the journey too along the way.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I go very fast, which is a
Yeah.
symptom of my ADHD. And in doing this podcast, you've made me stop and reflect on some of the things I've done. So
Yeah.
you've gifted me that to be able to get in the slow lane for a little bit.
Oh, I appreciate that. And just even just from someone listening from the on the podcast, what was your biggest reflective point? Like, do you feel you're proud of yourself of how far you've come, or you've taken some things how you'll do some things differently?
Yeah, I think probably being proud. I think it's
Yeah.
hard for me to like I was saying to you before we started recording, I prefer to be behind the scenes or like,
Yeah.
being behind the wing, not on the stage. That's my preferred place. So,
Mm,
somewhat stepping into a spotlight and going, no, this has been successful and I am doing good things. I think
mm,
the rejection sensitivity in my ADHD brain tends to focus, like most humans, probably to a
yeah.
degree, on the negative. So when there is criticism, it's much louder, even though the
Yeah.
percentage is smaller. So, yeah, reflecting on all the positive things is really it's quite grounding and it's really nice to remember that actually it's really good
Yeah.
work and it's worth doing.
Yeah. And even myself as a speechy, it's so beautiful to hear that there are services out there that I can refer to say,
Mm,
look, we are working on all these goals that you said in the podcast, like about communication, imaginative talk, and all that stuff that will further support a child. Like, I really believe in Megan's business. She will help your child further achieve the success in her specialty. And I
mm.
think that is such a beautiful gift that you have given to so many kids. And that is something to be so proud of as well.
Oh, thank you, Rita. It's a pleasure to be able to do this work, and it's really nice to have a sense of purpose. I think a lot of people spend most of their life seeking that, so I feel
Yeah.
very lucky, very grateful to have found that early. Yeah.
Well, you definitely found it and you're definitely shining. So good on you. Good on you.
Thanks, Rita.
Now, Megan, I ask all my guests before I wrap up the show, if you were to be a better version of yourself, Megan, what word will you apply to yourself today?
Ooh, I think probably patience.
Yeah. Do you want to
Yeah, just
elaborate?
yeah, I think just being patient with myself when
Yeah.
things are not moving in the direction I need them to or as fast as they need to, acknowledging where you're at right now and yeah, largely applying all of the things I teach to myself,
Yeah.
I would say patience.
Beautiful. What a word to live by every day. Patience. I think everybody needs that.
Hmm.
Mm. Now, Megan, can you tell the listeners where they can see you? Like, where's your dance school at? And if you have an online platform as well, where they
Mm.
can reach you too.
Yeah, so our studios are located in Maribyrnong,
Mhm.
which is the inner west of Melbourne, just near High Point Shopping Centre. And our website is dancehabit.com.au.
And your Instagram handle, is it Dance Habit?
I
Oh,
think
that's
so.
I'll have a look at that.
I
I'll put
should
it in
know
the show
that.
notes. I'll put it in the show notes, don't worry, it's
Okay.
okay for everyone, it's in the show notes.
Socials isn't my
Uh,
game.
okay, that's it. I'll leave that to your marketing team. I'll leave that to your
Yeah.
marketing team. Well, Megan, it was an absolute honor to communicate with you today on Wine with Wita and to share your story. You are amazing with all that you do for the young kids, but also for yourself as well. And as a business owner, it's actually so empowering to see another woman doing amazing things in her specialty as well. So thank you for coming on Wine with Wita.
Oh, thank you, Rita. Thanks for the opportunity.
And for everybody else, have a gorgeous day. And another episode of Wine with Wita will be brought to your ears very soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Wine with Wita. I hope you found some new inspiration, learnt something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you please leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it takes 5 seconds. If you're keen for more strategies and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow RS Speech Pathology.